At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes, at the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today, and let us surprise you.
You know that feeling when too many things fall through the cracks? Monday.com was built for that gap. The AI work platform where people and agents work side by side to deliver more together. Create your first Monday agent today at Monday.com.
Today on Partners in True Crime.
So I was so grateful because that was a tool that made me think, this woman can help me.
I'm really excited to hear about this, Karen, because I think a lot of people could benefit from EMDR. I think it's something that is not spoken about enough, especially since there's all kinds of traumas. There's different levels of traumas. It's not just like, oh, something as drastic and traumatic as what happened to Alison, which is beyond anything I could comprehend. But there's different levels, and it does help you get through those things.
My God, this girl's father killed her mother, and she was in the other room. That's staggering.
All right, so we're back with Partners in True Crime with Alison Duiker, and Alison brought another special guest for us, and so I'm going to let her introduce her and tell us a little bit about her.
Well, hello. I have been waiting for this episode. This episode is very, very important to me, special to me. This episode, I feel like, is, so many people say you're a badass, and I love that, but I didn't just wake up a badass. Like, I did years of therapy, years of not feeling like a badass to get to this point. And I think what everyone sees is this side of the story, but this wasn't the side of the story for most of my life. This is the side that I get to live now because I did the work, but much more of my life was the work than the badass. So it's so important to me, and I hope that it listening, that the ugly stuff, the hard stuff, doesn't last forever. You become a badass when you do the hard work. So I'm so thrilled to have Karen Hall here with us. She is a licensed social worker, and I actually had been in therapy, and it was going well. I was very happy with the counselor and or the therapist, and felt really good about what we were doing, but it just wasn't hitting the mark. I just felt like it was talk therapy, and that was great, but just something wasn't enough. And I couldn't put my finger on what that was or understand why, but I felt comfort in the sessions, but I didn't feel like it was truly healing me from the symptoms that, I now know as PTSD. Sometimes it even made it worse, because then I'd talk about it and I'd have to leave, and all of that is still in my head, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then I wasn't sleeping, and then it affects, your mood and everything in life. And I'm a teacher, like, I need patience, and all of those things were hard, because I had all of this stuff come up, and then time's up, you got to go. And that's just the nature of therapy. But then I'm walking out with all of this trauma, up to the top, and not knowing what to do with it. So they actually suggested that I see Karen. And I was told that Karen was a specialist in PTSD, and that she also did a type of therapy called EMDR. And at that point, I said, I'll do anything. Like, I'm a great student. I will do whatever, I should do. You tell me to do. I just want to get better. And I was willing to meet with her. And the funniest thing is that in the phone call, so I call, leave a message. She calls me back. And she tells me, well, I'm booked solid for 2 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, of course you are. I'm so annoyed. Like, I want to do this tomorrow. Like, let's just get finished and be better. And she was very astute enough to say, and I don't know what made her think that, but she said, I'll tell you what, are you a reader? And I said, yeah, I can be. And she said, before we meet, can I suggest a book for you to read? And I said, sure. And this is the book. It's called Invisible Heroes. And look, it's like yellowed and it's like marked up because over the years I go back to it sometimes. And sometimes I read my notes from when she originally assigned it to me. And I'm like, wow, I don't feel that anymore. Like, it's such a healing tool. But anyway, so I read this book by Belle Ruth Naparstek, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is what everyone has missed. If she is any itty bitty bit like what this book is saying, and she believes this way, I think she can help me. I felt such affirmation of like, yes. Yeah. Like I was like screaming yes as I'm reading the book. And I felt such confidence. So like going into seeing her in the 2 weeks, I'm like, I read the book, I read it all. So I was so grateful because that was a tool that made me think this woman can help me.
What was the book about, Alison?
It's called Invisible Heroes, Survivors of Trauma and How They Heal. And it talks all about like PTSD and the intricacies of PTSD and like what I just said about how like talk therapy brings it up. And then what do you do with it?
Exactly.
And then it terrorizes you for the next week until you see your therapist again.
Yeah. And you can't process those feelings.
Right.
It's really difficult. My therapist, she introduced me to EMDR years ago too, after traumatic experience, probably like 2010. And I've used it over the years when things get really stressful or whatever. It's an amazing tool. I'm really excited to hear about this, Karen, because I think a lot of people could benefit from EMDR. I think it's something that is not spoken about enough, especially since there's all kinds of traumas. There's different levels of traumas. It's not just like, oh, something as drastic and traumatic as what happened to Alison, which is beyond anything I could comprehend. But there's different levels, and it does help you get through those things. And I think it's great that you found her. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think you've been guided to find these things. Alison, your mom has been guiding you along here. I think to get the help that you need.
Karen. Yeah, Karen. So tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what were your first thoughts about Alison when you started hearing her incredible story?
I'm going to try. Well, I was going to say I'm going to try not to laugh because that part's not funny, but she was funny. I don't usually diagnose and treat someone who calls me for an appointment. I mean, and I didn't want any new clients. I was busy and I'm thinking, oh no. But then her voice was pretty direct and sparky. And then I'll tell you what she said when she walked in the door. And I thought, okay, all right, maybe I'm supposed to do this. So I did. That's not what I usually did. Oh, you've probably got PTSD, so here's a book to read. I did. And it was the right thing to do. And then first day that she walked in, I knew she was sparky, and my personality is pretty at work, steady. And so she was full of life, and she walked in and said, I need some help around here. So I thought, okay, this is going to be something going on here. And it was very funny because she hadn't even sat down. So then when she did sit down, what we discovered, and I think an essential part of therapy, is the connection. And what we discovered very early on is that we were blessed with connection. And I don't know how many hundreds of people I've said this to, but if you go to therapy and you don't feel from your therapist that you matter, give up on your therapist, but do not give up on therapy. takes a lot of, you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince, I think is.
Yeah.
But we were blessed because we had a special connection. And the first 2 minutes when she walked in, I was a little thinking she's more powerful, but no, it was lovely. And we knew we were blessed early on. And I think we felt that way the entire time. It was divine intervention. And there are more reasons to say that, which I can get into as we as we talk.
Sure. So when before she had her appointment, after you kind of basically gave her the book to read, did she tell you anything about her story prior to that? Or did she just say, I needed help and I think I have, I need your help?
Yeah, she said she needed help, or you said you needed help. And it was about intense anxiety. And you must have said a few things about what was going on that wasn't working and what was happening to you. So I had enough hints to know. That's how
Yeah.
I remember it.
And I think, if I remember correctly, that was around the time that the police said they wanted my DNA. So things were sparked again. So there was a body that they found in Troy, Ohio, and they wanted my DNA to match it to that victim. And it opened a landmine, and then I just couldn't shut it.
Yeah, we
Not
were
that I talked about it, but that was
no. Speak of not talking, yikes. That took a while, but we saw a picture of the woman that was found. It was really traumatic, and it's very good that it happened because it did open up. You've talked before on other podcasts about how afraid Alison was to tell, and this was beyond her control. And then I could start to see, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Because prior to some of that, I think we'd been talking about a boyfriend, right?
Right. Well, and I think I did the robotic dump. Like there is, a robotic story that I tell when I have to tell my spiel. And it's not feeling, it's like, okay, this is what happened. This, and then this, and then this, and then this. And I'm pretty sure that I just robotically dumped the story from, beginning to end at that point. And you probably were like, what? And I was just like spitting out the story like I had, 100 times before that.
Yeah. I'm curious, Karen, because we were dumbfounded when we hear a lot of crazy stories doing our line of work. But when we heard Alison's story, we were just kind of dumbfounded at how, this child who was basically the liaison interpreter for her both deaf parents, and how she was pretty much witnessed auditorially of probably what happened to her mother. And at age 5, how are you processing that, and how it had to incubate for so many years through her disjointed upbringing, having been passed around, basically be taken to the police station by her father, and then was able to be rescued by a teacher. I mean, and being able to create a normal life after that, and a thriving family, nuclear family, and a loving family with children. And now we're at this point where she pursued it as an adult to look for the answers to her mother's death. And now she's getting those answers. I mean, it's like most people don't get that. And for her to be able to process all that, I mean, I'm so glad that she had you, because a lot of people in the world don't have that. A lot of families of victims that we deal with don't have any of that. And they don't know how to deal. We have 2 or 3 families right now that are dealing with horrible situations, and they're not talking to anybody. They don't know what to do. They're still in it because it's still happening. So, I mean, kudos to you to be able to kind of connect with him. But what did you think of her story when you first heard it?
First of all, it took a long time to first hear it because it was a lot of peripheral, a lot of current life. And when I finally did get it, and I think probably the moment I did was the same moment you talked about. This picture of the one, I think her face had been created, and to what she would look like. And when I thought that, I saw that, I thought, my God, this girl's father killed her mother and she was in the other room. That's staggering. And of course, it never happened to me before. I had no preparation. I wasn't doing anything connected to anything legal, nothing about murder. I had my clients were very traumatized, but not like this. So it was incongruous because here's this beautiful young woman, it's got a little bit snippy and direct, but she held herself beautifully. She did express herself. And if you look at this exterior, this articulate, bright exterior, and then shrink down to she has an inner 5-year-old. And a lot of people roll their eyes at that. I think you did, like you've got an inner child. Yeah, a lot
Whatever.
of I
Hokey.
poured past the eyeball rolling. The brain is put together in a way that it doesn't really know the passage of time. So trauma is stored present tense, which is the way that you can talk about an inner child. There's a 5-year-old in there. And actually the emotions and some of the feelings are there. And Alison, I think you mentioned that with the hypnotist, that there's a part of you that is intact. So it was incongruous to see this I can't say enough wonderful things. I loved her so early on. And the firecracker, and then this wounded. And so the stories continued. Your father dropped you off at a police station. You didn't have enough food. Your brother was dragged along. I mean, it was story after story. And all the while, as she was speaking, she presented so very well and kindly. And yet it started to crack me open to realize it's not just what you see is what you get. There was so much more.
Yeah. No, I mean, when we heard it, I mean, to me, I mean, all these cases we unfortunately cover they're tragedies, but this was kind of like a Greek tragedy. It's on that level.
Yes, it is.
It's heart-wrenching every time we listen to Alison. She's such an inspiration to me and to anyone that meets her. I tell her this all the time because I just want her to know how amazing she is. And honestly, I don't know what I would have done in those situations or people I know would have done in those situations, but to come out on the other side like this is what's so inspiring. And I think that's why we were so excited to take this story on. But again, we all have people along the way that help us. And the fact that she had someone like you, Karen, that's a blessing to be able to get through to the other side. Because how old were you when you first met Karen, Alison?
Late 20s, I think.
At the most critical time of your life.
Yeah.
It's a critical time for a woman as you're reaching 30. If you're not married, were you married yet or not?
I was not, and that was part of the problem because
Exactly.
I was in a relationship for 7 years that I don't think he was like commitment material, but I was like feeling like I had to perform more and more and more in order to be enough. And it was never enough. And it was messing with my deep psyche of never feeling like I was enough.
Exactly.
And it really did a number on me.
It was the perfect storm.
It was.
It mimicked her earlier trauma of being out of control.
Yes.
Wanting, not being able to have, and stirring up all that unease as if she were a powerless child.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, in those relationships that we're attracted to at those young ages and through our life, it feels to me that sometimes we will attract or find the person to kind of help us heal that wound, because you attracted someone who brought up all the same feelings as your childhood. And then now you're out of control because you're an adult now. So finding someone like Karen to ground you and help you process those emotions gets you to the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you started the therapy, Alison, were you impatient and frustrated because you wanted it to go fast?
Sure. I would imagine.
I can imagine that
you need to fix me today.
Exactly. So
absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that process. Like, how did you get some patience with yourself, more importantly, to understand that it's a process, but also the relationship building with Karen? Because I think that's an incredible relationship.
Well, to begin with, I was super annoyed, like 2 weeks. So I was very annoyed up front, but she had been spoken about very favorably. And I thought, well, I don't know what this EMDR stuff is, but if it's something that will help, I want to do it. And I want to do it yesterday because I just want to be better. And I remember saying, like, I'll do the work. Just tell me what to do. I am a great student, and really wanting that. And up front, I think, like, in the beginning, it's all about like trauma dumping and just saying matter of factly, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. You still with me? Like checking in, making sure she's still with me. You still gonna keep me? Are you're not scared away? Because I got a lot more to dump, And I think in the beginning, there's a lot of, from my side, testing. Like, I'm gonna dump a whole lot of stuff on you right now, and I know that's your job, but I'm gonna dump it and see how you respond, because I don't know that I can trust you yet to really like put emotion to the story. And I think those beginning days were about testing to make sure she was going to stay with me.
It was her audition. It was Karen's audition.
It was.
Yeah. And I think people don't understand that. I mean, anybody who's done therapy can kind of appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, you're going in there with a total stranger. You're bearing your soul of everything you possibly can spew out in hopes, because you're so desperate for some sort of answer and healing, and hopes that this person, Karen, is going to kind of open up this door to a new life for you. But at the same point, you're like, well, the skeptic in your mind, because we're all skeptics about this. And you're like, well, yeah, I'm going to try this. I'll blast her with my howitzer of emotion and experiences. And, if she's still left standing, he goes, then, okay, I think we're okay. So I understand that. So Karen, you had to take all this stuff. You had to take this highly energetic, basically trauma beating. Yeah. From someone who is, that is going to keep you on your toes and look and expect answers. So that's an intimidating thing to kind of deal with for as a therapist.
It was, especially because it was out of my experience. But and I think what I tended to do when I was a newer therapist is someone would come in, say something, and I'd be thinking, okay, it's a lot of thinking. So what's the next thing? And after a while, it becomes automatic. But what I learned along the way, and this is what I was good at, was that it was about the connection. I was so worried. I wanted to do this right. I wanted to be the best therapist could ever be, love everybody into health. And but I didn't think I knew enough. This was before I met you. I knew more when I met you. But what I learned was that the connection was primary. And so earlier in my career, I might have been overwhelmed by the slow bits and pieces that came out. But what I knew is that for Alison to start healing, she had to trust me. And so there was a movie, or maybe is a movie, called Avatar.
Mhm.
And when Avatar see each other, they don't say, oh, hello, hello. They say, I see you.
Mhm.
And that moment of I see you, that is a profound moment, because that's what everybody wants. And that's what I could do with Alison. I could see her. And I didn't do a lot of fancy footwork in the beginning because I wanted her to know that her feeling better really mattered to me. It did, but I wanted her to be able to see it. And I
Yeah.
think I told you about I see you at some point in there. But so the basis was the relationship, and that's what we could do well. And I also wrote down that there also has to be, of course, a sense of safety, and that's what leads to trust. But also, what's primary in recovery is choice. If you have to start by deciding what to make for dinner, do that. But you have to make choices. And so I was very aware of Alison presenting to you things you could do, not that you had to do, but that you could do. And that was her. So she decided all along the way. I was like the menu. And so she decided, and that choice is empowering. And I would say to any survivor that safety, choice, and connection. It's an intimate relationship. And I think that's the basis of the healing.
Mhm.
So
That's I want to say that right there was such a huge piece, because part of my healing was me taking control and me saying, I want to be better. I'm going to be better. But if you came across in an authoritarian type way and said and told me what I needed to do, that would have turned me off. And even when things got really hard, you know, there was some fear coming in because, you know, there were points in my life that I did feel like hopeless and suicidal and just like I don't want to do it anymore. But that didn't mean I was going to do it. It just meant that's how I felt. And there was fear in like, if I'm going to be honest with you, are you going to like take control and tell me I have to go to a hospital or something? Like I feared being honest because I didn't want you to take control of my life because you felt some sort of way about what I was telling you. And that little, dance back and forth with you allowing me to choose slowly gave me confidence in trusting you to be honest and share truly what was eating my soul, because I was afraid to do that based on like you could have the power to take away my freedom, if I was really honest about the ugliness that I felt. So that was a fine dance for a very long time before I felt comfortable.
Yes, it was.
Karen, can you explain what EMDR is for people that don't know?
Yes.
And also, when did you introduce it to
Alison, and what was her reaction?
I've got to think about when.
It wasn't for a while.
I think it could have been 3 or 4 years, because
seriously,
you have to be
for a long time
tender with the EMDR because it can be a little bit too much. So the relationship has to be established, and a sense of safety and the ability to tolerate emotion, which isn't necessarily Herculean. You have to be able to sit still and tolerate. And so it took a while for her to feel safe enough to feel strong emotions, and she could do that with me. EMDR is a very strange discovery. I feel like I've often felt it's a little like AA in that, it's just a bunch of guys that got together and talked about, so what we're drinking, we're going to lose our marriage, what are we going to do? And they found these 12 steps that have proved to be so very helpful. And I think EMDR is a little like that. Francine Shapiro, who was traumatized by cancer at that point, she was a psychologist, I think working on her PhD. And she was taking a walk in a park. And at the end of the walk, she felt a lot better, but she couldn't understand why. So she took the walk again. And what she remembered, and this is the odd part, is that she was darting her eyes as if you're doing that, but her eyes were darting back and forth. She thought that was very odd. It was odd that she was doing it. But what's fortunate, and this is why I mention this divine intervention so often, because she was working for the VA, and what she did is gather together veterans who were still suffering from Vietnam. And it was 20 years after the war, if not more. And so in simplest terms, she said, think about something upsetting and then follow my fingers. So they would go like that and a little faster. Okay. So then they started, start with the flashbacks, and then they went through it. It was unsettling, but she was there. She was stable. She was reassuring. She knew what to do. And so it kept on going. So then stop, close your eyes. What are you getting? Okay, now I see my buddy, and so and so. Okay, go with that. And then back and forth. And what happened is that the images that were alive started to fade or started to mean something different, like he's at peace, it wasn't my fault, I can live with this, whatever. After years and years, decades of suffering, that was miraculous. She also discovered that it didn't work sometimes.
This Monday.com ad was created by a team of people and AI agents. Reese, our content agent, wrote the copy based on our best practices, like mentioning Monday.com 3 times. That was the second. Johnny, our coordination agent, built the timeline and kept everyone aligned. Olivia, our human creative director, stayed in the loop. Because agents are great, but they don't always know when a joke lands. She had one note: tell listeners it only takes minutes to build an agent. So, minutes. Create your own AI agent today on Monday.com.
Hi, it's Sierra Miller. I can't wait for you to check out my new collection of shoes and accessories at Designer Shoe Warehouse. If you love shoes as much as I do, then trust me, I got you. From cute sneakerinas to the perfect flip-flops to stunning heels, these shoes are all style, no drama. It's a girl's girl summer, and DSW has just the shoes. Shop the Sierra Miller collection right now at your DSW store or dsw.com.
Hello.
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together, we have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
And what she found out is that if there is a resistance to getting better, it will stop the process. So some poor guys were really afraid that if they did get better, they were going to lose their income. And so in a sense, what that does is say, or what I'm trying to say is, you have some control. If it's too much, you can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not ready for it, you can stop it. Bilaterally stimulating the brain, right, left, starts the trauma that's frozen to melt. If you think about Alka-Seltzer, dropping the Alka-Seltzer in, it's supposed to fizz and bubble, and it just doesn't. It freezes, which is what Alice and I should talk about. And so what the EMDR does, and I don't know why it works, I know that it does. I've seen amazing things in my practice. What it does, this bilateral back and forth, whether it's this or holding pulsars, the Alka-Seltzer starts to melt and people find resolution. And so I find it miraculous. I have experienced EMDR also, as you have. And it's why I went to learn it, because I had done a lot of my own talking therapy, which was very helpful. But once I used EMDR, I started to get better much faster. So Alison has a mission and I have a mission. And ours are aligned, I think. I want people to know that EMDR exists.
Mm-hmm.
Important.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I watch the news, I just think, I hope somebody tells them about it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I got a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, it's very valuable. And for traumatic events, it does help you process it a lot faster than talk therapy would. And it did for me personally. And I go back to it, like I said, when sometimes if we're even stressed, if it's just a blockage, a writing blockage or something, like, what is this? It's very helpful in processing things quickly. So Alison, when you started doing it, what did you think when she first mentioned it to you?
I thought it was pretty hokey at first.
I'm sure.
I was like, you want me to do what?
Right. You want to move my eyes back and forth? What was I going to do?
Yeah.
I was the same way. I have to tell you. I did the same thing. I said, really? You really think this is going to do anything? I got kind of mad because I was like, really?
Ridiculous. Yeah. And imagine introducing it to someone like Alison.
I can't even imagine. For you, it would be scared. I would be scared to tell her about it.
A little unnerved because the eyeball roll thing. So I said, there's something I want to tell you about. And it's a discovery and all that stuff. So you go ahead, Alison.
So the funny thing is, like, the eye movement thing, I never liked, I never bought into. I couldn't until literally just in this moment, it hit me because it connected to a different memory. And I don't know that I ever said this to you, because I literally just thought, when I was 5 and my mother disappeared, I was taken to be hypnotized. And literally there was this chain and this eye movement thing. It just hit me just now. And I had to watch the chain and go back and forth with the medallion. And I intentionally pretended to be sleeping because I didn't want to do it. And I literally this minute put that together, that I wanted nothing to do with the whole eye thing. It didn't feel right. I thought it was dumb. It gave me negative feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think that's why, because
oh my gosh,
subconsciously it made me connect to having to watch that thing go back and forth and not wanting to do it.
So someone hypnotized you when you were 5 after your mother disappeared to try to see if they could elicit basically what you tried to elicit many years later, with the other hypnotist.
Yeah.
That's something new. We didn't know about that.
Did not do any vision things.
Yeah.
So I never even said that to her, that doesn't work for me. She just had me close my eyes and relax my body. So that never came up. But literally, as I watched your fingers on the screen doing that, it just hit me that I don't think I had a positive feel of that, because it connected me to not wanting to do that and faking sleeping so that I didn't have to participate. But so she had done that a few times, follow my fingers or whatever. And I was like, I don't even know what I said, but I was not engaged. I thought it was hokey. I thought it was dumb. It gave me negative feelings. Like this isn't good. And then I remember, like, the whole idea of EMDR, like you said, is to bring up a feeling or a memory that is traumatizing you, and to focus on that while you work through this other part of your brain.
Right.
And I will never forget, like, this. I was like, can we skip through this? It's not working. I wanted no part of that. But you got up out of your, the proverbial setting in a counseling situation is like, they're in a chair and you're in a chair and you're across from each other. And like, there's all this distance, and you don't necessarily feel safe to be that vulnerable when the person who's supposed to be helping you through safety is across the room. And I didn't know that at the time, but I was sitting on a love seat and she was in a chair, and she got up out of the chair and sat next to me. And I was like, ooh, like, it gave me chills because, like, this isn't what therapists do.
Yeah.
But it provided me a sense of safety and comfort. Like, she was like, I'm in this with you. I'm going to try something different because this didn't work. And made me irritated. Like, this is dumb. So then, she sat next to me and she put her, she like did the same thing with her fingers, but she tapped both sides of my knees.
Yeah.
Yes. And that gave me chills. Like, that was an instant. I felt the safety of her, the warmth of her body next to me, the safety of her presence, and her tapping. And like, it instantly was like a flood of emotion. And like a minute ago, you said, well, let's get into that. So what it did for me was flood emotion, and I dissociated. Like, it became too much. And then like, I totally dissociated and like couldn't talk, and like my body was shaking, and it was just like too much. And like, she would help me through that. And she just innately knew like how far to go, and would, continue to tap through it, and would like encourage me, you're safe and I'm here with you. You're not alone, which is nothing I ever felt before, and her kind of reprogramming through her words, the positive safety and encouragement, as well as the tapping with me in the nightmare, was like magic. It was nothing I ever imagined could happen, would happen, did happen to other people, but it was magical. Like, to get me through such an ugly time. We did that for years, processing different emotions, and she was right by my side. And I know that that's kind of taboo in therapy land. Like, you're supposed to keep your distance, but we would not have gotten where we got if she had not done that. If she had not crossed that barrier and provided physical proximity to me that made me feel safe, I would not have gone there. I was way too guarded.
No, she went in the trenches with you.
She did.
I bought a love seat because by that time I knew that I was seeing a lot of people that were traumatized. So I bought the love seat. I didn't advertise that I sat beside my clients because that was very atypical, but I always asked, is it okay if I come over and sit beside you? And because member choice is so important. And then I asked, would it be okay if I put my arm over your shoulder? Yes. And honestly, Alison, what would we have done without that couch? Because it was physical proximity.
I feel bad for the couch, all the trauma it holds.
Yes. Yeah. Uh-oh.
So had
I can't see you.
Okay, we can see you. I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
See you, we hear you.
Yeah, we can still see and hear
you. We can
you.
still see and hear you.
Okay, so should we just continue?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. So what evolved was that what's typical with post-traumatic stress is fight, flight, freeze. Alan was Allison was a good fighter. But also with what she really needed and what she used was the freeze. So what happened when I went over and put my arm around her is she, I think, felt safe enough to freeze. And when I say freeze, I mean freeze. Her hands were gripping mine and very tightly. And we talked about this yesterday, Allison. At one point, I had to say, honey, you're hurting my hand. So I would take one finger at a time to try to help her loosen the grip.
So she has arthritis from me.
Right. And my arm was up. So that EMDR happened. She was frozen, and I hadn't come across that before either. But frozen, she could still process because I was beside her and I was tapping right, left. So it worked. And it took
also something I had never heard of. Like, I didn't know what was happening. And that could have been something that I was like, I never want to do that again, because I did not feel like I had control. Like, my body just froze and I was in such a panic. But because we had literally established years of support and comfort and confidence, I felt I trusted you enough to know that if you were telling me, let's go through this together, and it was going to make me better. You know, I said, I'll do anything. I want to be better. So that desire for wanting to be better made me willing to do it and feel safe enough with you next to me, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't doing it alone. Like, my whole life was me trying to figure out how to get through it. But I wasn't alone that time. And it provided a different sense of confidence and safety to face it.
Yeah, I have a question. When you're doing the tapping and you had your arm around her and you're sitting next to her, I mean, are you talking to her as well, or what are you prompting with her?
Oh, it was like,
do you get specific, or are you just creating open-ended questions to allow her to come into it?
Well, there weren't any questions because she couldn't talk. She was frozen. And I want to make sure that the people that are hearing this understand that the freeze response was a protection. And so she was frightened, but I was there. And it's something that people can tolerate because I know when to stop it. We know how to moderate it. So what I was doing is continually reminding her that she was in that office with me. And so it was a steady stream of my voice. And Allison, if you remember something more or different, you can let me know. But as I was tapping, can you feel my shoulder, right on your shoulder? And it's warm and I'm holding you. And notice your feet on the floor. They're solid. This couch is holding both of us up. We're safe together. So I'm not gonna move. I am not going to leave your side while we're doing this. I'm right here. And that stream, and then whatever she was doing, she said that you heard my voice as I was talking. So it was getting in, and the bilaterals, my hand, right, left, the stimulation was happening. So that's how I did it. The actual processing of specific memories is not how that was done with Allison.
Okay.
She had to be one step removed because it was too traumatic.
Got it.
I
Yeah.
have this image of like a turtle. Like when it would get to be too much, I would freeze, and it's almost like a turtle going into its shell.
Yep.
Like
Mhm.
that whole freeze was like going into my shell and not willing to come out because it was too much. And like the EMDR and your words like simultaneously like helped break that up a little, like break up that fear a little, and replace the fear with your loving words. And just sometimes I didn't even know what you said. It was just the sound of your voice, and
Mhm.
the sound of your voice sounding loving and caring, and not necessarily what you said, but the tone of your voice would provide like comfort and help me like slowly release through that, and then feel like I conquered it in the end. Like then when I did come out feeling like, okay, I just went through that war literally, and I'm okay. I faced it, I looked at it, I felt it, and I'm okay. And it like restored a little of my sanity.
Mhm.
It helped reduce a lot of those symptoms like the night terrors and the freeze and all that would happen throughout my day, and just feeling so overwhelmed. And little by little, and I say little, but it took a long time, just because there's so much. But little by little, I think it restored like my emotional health and strength.
Mhm. It did.
Karen, can you
Yeah.
explain the tapping a little bit? I know about it. I don't think many people do, though. And I mean, for what I understood about it is that when I'm tapping, I'm releasing these emotions that my body stores inside that it's holding on to. Then when I'm doing the tapping, it kind of flows out like melting, like you said, like you're melting those emotions. But maybe you can speak about it a little bit better than me. Obviously.
Were you doing your own tapping?
No, I was with my therapist. So she would tap here, we would tap here, and then now I do it myself. I can do it myself.
Oh, okay. That is called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, and it is tapping. The tapping with EMDR is a little different, but the point is accessing the brain. So they're different. I think they both work. I know more about EMDR. So EFT tapping, I just want to make that clear because it is a little bit different.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying I want to clarify what kind of tapping were you using with Alison?
Everything is right, left. So I could tap knees. You can do your own. It's called butterfly tapping. You can do this if you have to do virtual work or together. And this is kind of comforting because you're holding yourself. It's right, left. EFT tapping is like this. I have pulsars, so put them in each hand, and there's just a little gentle buzz, right, left. So that's what's different. And I bet that felt confusing when I was talking about, I used the word tapping, but the EMDR is different. Am I making that clear?
Yes.
Absolutely, which is why I wanted you to clarify it for people, because I know I've done both. I've done both with my therapist, but I know a lot of people, tapping is a word that people use a lot right now, and it's become more mainstream than it used to be. I just wanted to clarify for everyone the difference.
I'm glad you did, because I was using that word.
Yeah, but I also want to understand, like, for the EMDR tapping that you were doing with Alison, how does that help process the emotions for her?
It's brain function, and trauma is stored in the brain in a part. And in that part where it's stored are emotions, thoughts, senses. And so you get to that part as you're thinking about, okay, this is where I was sitting, this is what was happening, and you get to that part. And when you're located in that part of the brain, and then there is a right, left, bilateral stimulation would have been a better way for me to say it. So it's stored in the amygdala, little back part. And for some reason that I don't know or can explain, right, left, bilateral starts that little pocket of memory to melt like Alka-Seltzer. A neurologist would probably be able to explain that. I just know that it happens. But that's how it is. You have to get to the brain, then you have to stimulate any way you can, and the melt start.
What's interesting is that, because I've seen this before and I've seen people, I've done it, when you see people have gone through traumatic situations in the immediate, when it happens to them, like victims of like fire victims, or just got pulled from a fiery house, or just saw a car wreck with their loved one deceased in it. And I've seen pictures, being in the business where we see people a lot of times on their worst days. And I remember seeing people doing stuff instinctively like this when they're traumatized, arms crossed, tapping themselves, doing stuff with their head, where they're holding their head and tapping it. It's almost like, and it's an instinctive thing that we all do when we're exposed to a horrific or traumatic experience. It's like covering your eyes and tapping and just tapping your forehead, and just those things where you're kind of keeping everything close to you, and you're trying to. It almost feels like you're trying to keep yourself from exploding.
Yeah, rocking does that too.
Rocking,
like literally, like the rocking back and forth.
Oh yeah. And look at how everything picks up a baby. People who pick up babies are rocking right
instinctively. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
And patting people's heads, a baby's head when they're crying and stuff like that. When you're rocking them, I think instinctively, that, we're all energy. We all have energy flowing through us, and it's like electricity. I think it's almost like you're trying to, reroute the bad energy, and trying to cut off the wires that'll keep it. So I just find it fascinating. I mean, consciousness for me is it's so unexplored. I think, we're not even, I don't even know if we'll ever really understand what consciousness is, but nature has figured out a way for us to do this. And I think these techniques that you're talking about are we'll be able to recognize and just say, all right, we can put, for us as humans, we have to kind of put some sort of acronym or meaning to it so we can access it.
And I think it's an important part for the people who are either in therapy or hopefully going to start therapy if they feel they need it, is to ask about techniques. Because the basis of the therapy, of course, is the connection and the relationship, but then the skills that go along with that. And so I wrote down that you can Google or you can use AI to find therapists that do EMDR. And EMDR is just a part of a regular therapy hour. It's just in it. It is also, I shouldn't say the only way to get better. There's been a lot of getting people. I'm sorry.
But it's powerful. Like
it's very powerful. It saves time. And I think it's profound. And you two also feel that. So I think it's important when if someone's going to be looking, to ask about it. And then you can go to therapy and you can do EMDR or not. It's just nice to know if you want to, you can.
Have you ever had with any of your patients any sort of negative result or side effect from that, or not? I mean, unless you've tapped into something too dark that people can't retrieve back from.
The main side effect is strong emotion. And so if that becomes difficult to tolerate, then we have already set up, before we do EMDR, a safe place.
Got it.
So we install that. Maybe it's a lake and maybe the sun is shining and you can feel the warmth and you can hear the water lapping on a boat. And so the bilateral stimulating deepens the experience. So that's in place first. And if the overwhelm, if it's too much emotion, we leave that space, which is easy to do because we've already created it. Okay, so let's go to the lake. Let's rest. You did a great job. Let's go there. Feel the sun on your face. I repeat all the cues that they gave me. And then there's comfort. So going wrong, I don't think so, but needing to take a break and then resting. So there's always going to be safety doing the EMDR, as long as it's installed.
Okay, cool. And then Alison, when we talked in the beginning of this podcast, we were talking a little bit about how you were saying how you would, therapy is like you would have these talk therapy sessions, and then, it would stir all this stuff up, and then you had to time's up, and then you had to leave, and then you'd had to process that alone, and just stirred up all that hornet's nest of emotions. I mean, what did the technique, the EMDR, help? Did you feel better after your session where you felt like you weren't left alone with all this stirred up emotions, or is that one of the reasons that it worked for you?
I think a lot of times I felt like sensitive, like, when you're sick and then you're finally getting better, but you just feel so sensitive and weak or tired. Like I would feel like that. And, it would take a while. She gave me like guided imagery CDs to listen to. So I knew like after a difficult session, I probably was going to have a difficult night. And so I would try to play those CDs before bed and try to like just get my body calm, get my mind in a good place before I even went to bed. And, there were times that I would wake up and then I'd wake up and hit play on that CD again and just try to like breathe and, get myself back in. I would do that hugging myself. I did a lot of rocking and just kind of squeezing each arm. And I mean, it always worked eventually. Sometimes it took longer than others, but it always helped bring me to a better place.
Yeah.
It's important to have something for after a session for comfort. And guided imagery, the brain is an amazing thing because it does not know the difference between a real experience and an imagined experience. So this using imagination through guided imagery or music, bird song, is an actual experience. And it's important to have something because leaving a session, usually Alison was exhausted, but she had some props. And there's so many apps now that a person can use, Headspace and Insight Timer. And
I think there's something to be said about chemistry also, because a lot of those guided imagery things are about getting oxygen in. And at least for me, I would hold my breath and I would be so tight, even my breath would stop. And like there were times in the session, like in a moment, Karen would say, take a deep breath. And I'd literally have to remember to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that oxygen depletion happens after a while. You're just like so out of breath. And so like the anxiety, like you can't breathe. And those techniques that you're set up for to help you afterwards help restore that oxygen that does like give you calm, a sense of calm, because you're like, okay, I'm breathing. I'm getting it in and being more intentional about making sure I'm taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out and getting that going.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much we hold our breath. My other producer says, we say this all the time. We're like, do we even breathe? Like we literally hold our breath half the day. And it wasn't until we started doing hot yoga where we were both like, oh my God, we're breathing. You just don't realize how much you hold your breath, and you're like all day like this roller coaster ride. And it's just modern life, it's really important to remember these things. I think
that's why exercise is so important, because it forces you to breathe. Because you have to.
It's such a mental help. But I think one of the major key takeaways from this interview, I think, is just so interesting, is that Alison, you were going through this traumatic breakup, and that was the focal point at that time, with all of these memories lodged in your mind and your heart and your soul for so many years that you didn't even really access because you just didn't want to feel them or deal with them or anything. So this horrible breakup happens, this relationship that you thought, was it and wasn't it. And yet it led you to Karen, and Karen was able to get you to the breakthrough, to get access to those horrific memories, to get through them, to process them, then to meet your husband after that. So that's the message I want people to understand. It's like, no matter what you're going through, there's just something there. There's a reason for it. It leads you to where you're supposed to go next. So just stay the course and trust your instincts.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think you would have met Karen, and maybe at a different time you might not have been ready for her.
Well, you
have to be open to it.
Exactly.
And you're still going through it, because as you know, Karen, I mean, she's in the middle of it, right? She's towards the tail end of it, but there's a crucial moment coming up in the next few weeks where the resolution for all of this pain and suffering and stored trauma is gonna could burst. It's two ends of it, she doesn't know. She's I mean, we've been doing this podcast with her during this process, and I'm hoping that has helped her kind of get through some of this, in addition to kind of just basically have testimony before basically the world on YouTube here to kind of share her story and just kind of illustrate it. But what advice are you giving her now, knowing that she's coming up against something pretty massive in her mother's case, where you have her father who killed her mother, strangled her, and who has admitted it 3 times, having to face him, because we always talk about that, facing your tormentor in a public setting like court, and having the world hear about it, and she's there with her family as a support system. What advice are you giving her to handle the decisions that are going to be, that she has no control over now, that are going to happen?
I think one thought I'm having is to remind you, Alison, that you have hope. And once you started to have hope, you can call on that hope. That's where I was. This is where I am. I'm not going to live in any one place that is uncomfortable and hurting me and terrifying. There's always going to be movement. And the other thing that's important is to be in the moment that you are in, and staying focused. It's focusing on something difficult, but when you focus on, your father will be over there, you'll be over here, you're going to be surrounded by love. So be in the moment, and you're going to be looking, but don't forget to focus on what you are surrounded by and what you can elicit. So you can handle anything in the moment, especially because you're not alone.
I feel like all of this EMDR work that I had done with you, like, brought all that poison, so to speak, out.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that, and I was a little worried, like, setting actual eyes on him for the first time would, like, send me into, a dark place, or, I'd have to do EMDR again or whatever. But it didn't. Like, I actually felt, in court, I literally positioned myself so that when they were wheeling him out, he would see me, and I had my arms like authoritarian, like, crossed in front of me, and I just shook my head like, shame on you. And it was like, I didn't have that scared little girl anymore. She's been released and healed.
Right.
And I stood in front of him as a badass, like, I see you and I'm not afraid of you anymore. But that I didn't live there for a very, very long time. But because I did 13 years of therapy with you and went through all of that, I could stand there and look at this man for the ugliness that he was and know I'm no part of that and feel power in that.
Which is why you're going to be okay and are okay.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Karen, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful interview. We're so excited that you were here today. What a great,
I was happy to be here.
Support for Alison, but also just to let other people know, like, when you're going through these horrible things, there's different levels of pain and trauma, you know, find someone that can help you through it to get to the other side.
It's not meant to be done alone.
No, it's too hard, you know. And Alison, again, you're a badass and you're amazing. And thank you again for another wonderful week.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I just think that this should be kind of a must listen for any of our listeners. Cause we, like I said, we get reached out constantly by families who have experienced trauma like this. You know, some of them worse than yours, some of not as worse. And I think everybody, and I think you said it earlier, not in these words, but it's like, no matter what the level of trauma is, you know, the worst thing that happened to you is the worst thing that happened to you. Now, whether it was like, yeah, you had a traumatic experience with your parents while you were growing up, or your father strangled your mother. I mean, whoever it is, it's the still for them individually, it's still the same level of trauma that they're experiencing. So it's not just for people who are experiencing the crazy trauma that Alison did, but it's also for people who've had trauma that is ruling their lives and they don't understand what they're feeling. And I think that's the biggest problem is people don't understand what they're feeling. And they don't understand. And it's like, and unless you actually tap into it and do the work and try to find these answers, you're never really, I mean, you know, listen, you know, you know, we're all, I find out if I knew what I knew now when I was in my 20s, and even though we're hungry for that information, there's no direction. There's no direction. No one's and there's no one saying, hey, you need help. You can do this. And I'm glad that in this day and age, there are so many outlets for people for, you know, to find this type of work. And there's other stuff too, that helps people with trauma as well. So I think that all has to be kind of explored, and we're just grateful. Like we have people like you, Karen, who dedicate their lives to helping people like Alison, because, you know, now we know that you assisted in the badass making.
She is the invisible hero.
I was gonna say. I mean, it's just because it's like, because most of them are women that we deal with that usually take up this quest to kind of find out what happened to their family members, or taking on the judicial system, and, you know, in an Aaron Brockovich type fashion, you know, you just but it takes a village for her to be that.
That's right.
I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for the help of Karen. She absolutely saved my life. I would not have the strength to go through all of this if it weren't for her. She helped me experience a healing I never imagined that I'd ever feel. Like, it's like a death sentence to so many people.
Sure.
And if you don't find the person who can truly help you heal, you might be stuck in that death sentence for your life. Karen saved my life.
Well, that's a perfect place to end. Aaron, what else do you want to say? Last parting shot here.
To me?
Yeah.
I want to say, first of all, thank you for that, Alison. I watched you save yours, and therapy works two ways. You were an inspiration to me also. I was reminded that there is indeed hope for people to feel better, so I can continue this work. Who would do this if nobody got better?
Exactly.
And you were a constant reminder, and I moved forward with that. Bless your good heart.
Well, bless everybody on this podcast. So thank you so much for spending your time explaining all this. I think it's truly a valuable thing to do, and what you're doing means something. And thank you for helping Alison.
Thanks, Karen.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Hey, before your Q3 call, I've got the campaign brief ready, built from last quarter's data and the competitive landscape.
Great. Did you include the differentiation angle the CMO asked for?
Already in there. 3 angles no competitors using right now. Just need your approval.
Approved. Thanks. Oh, agents, where would we be without you?
Somewhere with a lot more tabs open.
Create your first Monday agent in minutes at Monday.com.